All right, all right, all right. Welcome to Corporate Junky. I am your man, Corp J. And thank you all for joining me. I want to say a big shout out to all my peoples. Thank you for your support. Thank you for really holding up this channel. I want to say thank you to all of my people in on the continent, all of my people in the diaspora, as well as all of my people that are not Africans that have really supported this channel, have really really helped to hold this channel up. So I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Okay, so let's get into this video because this is an exciting video that I'm excited to bring to you guys today. We're going to be talking about why Afrobeat is going to be bigger than these other music genres. When I talk about music genres, I'm talking about hip hop and I'm going to talk about highlife. I'm going to compare these two music genres. We'll talk about what these music genres have done in the past. I'm going to talk to you guys about this from the standpoint of culture and the demographic, of the countries that really kind of built these music genres. Now, why am I coming at you from that standpoint? The reason why I'm going to focus on it from a cultural aspect or element is because when you think of music, music really is a representation of a culture, and culture represents a people. Okay, so most music genres or music style or flavor really kind of voice and speak for a people, right? It really represents the people that originated it. It really represents people that discovered it, and for most part, it tells a story of a people. So the success of the music genres that we've known in the past have been because of the people who that music genre represents. So when we think of things like reggae, it's a story of Jamaicans. When you think of pop culture, it's a story of the West. When you think of, hip hop, it's a story of African Americans, and country music, on and on and on. It's a story of a people and their style. So I'm going to talk to you guys about these attributes from the standpoint of culture, and I'm going to talk to you about the people within that culture. And I'll tell you we'll talk about behavior, what we've seen in the past and what we're seeing today, which plays a role in the success and the failures of a music genre. So let's get into it because I've got a lot to cover. So let's talk about Afrobeats in terms of the people, okay, which is the Nigerian people. So the success of Afrobeat today, it has largely been because of Nigeria and the people of Nigeria. And one of the reasons why Afrobeat is successful today, and you'll find a lot of artists even attribute this, is that Nigerians tend to work together, support their own, and promote their own. So that is one thing that many artists in the Afrobeats artists have really spoken of in interviews. You've heard this, and you've also seen this type of behavior even with Nollywood, which is the second largest movie industry. I said the second largest now because in one of my videos I actually said it was the third largest, because at one point it was the third largest movie industry, and I was corrected by one of my subscribers. Thank you for that. Who reminded me that it has moved from the third to the largest, to the second largest movie industry. When you think of this, the quality of Nollywood, it's a poor quality, right? It's a poorly put product, but nonetheless, the support that it has gotten over the years and still continues to get from Nigerians has been the reason why Nollywood has really earned the spot that it has over the years. It's the same thing with Afrobeats, is that Afrobeat is primarily promoted by Nigerians. And so Nigerians support their own. So that's the behavior you'll find even outside of Afrobeats, is you find Nigerians build communities, they support each other, They work within their own communities. They set up these communities. And that's not to say that they're all perfect. This is not to paint them as perfect people, okay? They've got their own flaws and they've got their own problem like everyone else. But in terms of what's common about Nigerians is the fact that they really kind of work together and work within their own communities and promote each other, which has really kind of helped to drive Afrobeat to where it is today, and really would help to move Afrobeat to a global sensation, which is what we're seeing today. Second point is that Nigerians are entrepreneurs. They tend to be entrepreneurs and know how to stand out wherever they go. So this is something you'll find with most people that have encountered Nigerians, is that Nigerians are largely entrepreneurs. They do have that entrepreneurial spirit. They tend to start businesses. They tend to really kind of stand out wherever they are, whatever countries they live in, and even here in the United States. It's something that people love about them, but sometimes also people dislike that about them, because they'll come in and take over, right? They'll come in and just outshine you, outperform you. So that's something that most people kind of tend to know about Nigerians in terms of that entrepreneurial spirit. You'll find Nigerians that are doctors and they own their own practice. You'll find their own, Nigerians that are pharmacists and they own their own practice. It's a known thing. It's largely known about Nigerians. They're business owners. They create things. So it's sad that the country itself has bad leaders who have not supported these types of spirits. But in terms of the people of Nigerian people, these are things you'll find. Nigerians value their communities and are always on code. And I've just talked about it with the last point I made. So you'll find a lot of communities within the Nigerian communities. You find communities here, even in the diaspora in Texas. You find large communities of Nigerians in Houston, in Dallas, in Atlanta, in Baltimore, in New York. So most Nigerians tend to kind of band together, which is also a positive attribute, because when one person believes in one thing, they tend to kind of get everyone else to kind of be on board in that. So it's one of the reasons why Afrobeat has really succeeded, because it's a herd mentality with Nigerians, and that's why you find the support, a shared commonality with the Nigerian people, and that's really played into the success of Afrobeat. Nigerians are highly educated, and they don't tend to forget where they come from. A huge aspect of what people know and perceive about Nigerians is they're highly educated. Rice University here in the United States, a very prestigious university here in Houston, conducted a study not too long ago, a few years ago, where they sort of looked at the ethnic groups in the United States. And based on their findings, Nigerians were discovered to have the highest amount of education compared to even Asians. Nigerians outperform Asians in the United States. They outperform Indians in terms of education in the United States, and certainly outperform African Americans in terms of education, in terms of the number of bachelor's degree, in terms of master's degrees and PhDs that are held. So that was a study conducted by Rice University. And so that's a huge thing that people know about Nigerians. You're hard pressed to find a Nigerian walk into a job without having 2-3 degrees to his or her name. So that's what people, and that's a huge factor of why Afrobeat is sort of has taken off and is really succeeding, because most of the business aspect of that music genre has largely been because of the education and the skill set that most Nigerians have to really kind of create a business behind it, or have the managerial business acumen to really drive that forward. You even find that a lot of apps now, streaming platforms are now being created by Nigerians, that like Boomplay, created by Nigerians. You even find that concerts like Afro Nation was started by two Nigerians. So there's a lot of entrepreneur spirit based on their education that has really helped to drive this thing forward. And the fact that they don't forget who they are. Most Nigerians are proud people. They understand where they come from, and they try to keep that identity for themselves. My last point on this is that Nigerians hate to bring shame to themselves and their family. So we're not going to talk about a few bad actors here that have really kind of given themselves a bad name. I won't say they give Nigerians a bad name, give themselves a bad name. But largely, most Nigerians hate to bring shame. So many times you'll find that they stay away from crime. They stay away from anything that will bring negative picture to themselves. So many of them really kind of play it safe, keep a low profile, and just do their jobs, go to work, go to school, and try to keep a low profile. Again, we have a few bad actors that have really kind of misrepresented themselves, I would say. But that's not any different from what you'll find with any other community. So this is not exclusively just something that you find with Nigeria in terms of those bad actors, but you'll find it in other communities too. So if you compare the number of bad actors within Nigerian communities compared to these other communities in Africa or here in the diaspora, and you compare per capita, Nigerians are the least likely to commit any of these crimes than you'll find with other communities. Okay, so let's talk about African American. Let's talk about hip hop and the points in terms of where hip hop is and what hip hop has done. Hip hop, I want to start off by saying that hip hop really touched the world in ways that many other music genres that preceded it did not. So hip hop really kind of was a unique music genre that really gave to the world something that was special. And many people bought into the African American community because of hip hop. Now, that being said, hip hop also really, unfortunately, promoted some type of behavior, and many behaviors, I would say, that really kind of represented that really kind of what's what I'm looking for, behaviors that stemmed from the people. Remember, I said earlier on that music genre represents a people. So it's only a matter of time where you see a behavior from a people really spill into his music. So let's talk about those behavior from the people and the culture of hip hop that really spilled into the music genre. Now, hip hop promotes crime. Afrobeat does not. So that's something you'll find with most of the hip hop songs. This one thing that most people know about hip hop is the promotion of this crime and gangster life and gangster living. It's celebrated, right? It's really celebrated, and people are bought into it. So you find find a lot of the rap songs or even the R&B songs really kind of promote these things. Guns, sagging of pants, going to prison, going to jail, really shooting each other, and they promote how many people they've shot and how their the ability to really kind of get shot and still keep moving. And that type of promotion is something that has really stigmatized hip hop. You don't find this with Afrobeat. Afrobeat isn't promoting crime and lawlessness and things like that. Afrobeat doesn't marginalize women. You tend to see this also with hip hop. The putting down of their women, the women are objectified. The women are put down, so you have a lot of derogatory words that are used to describe women. The B words, the F word, the C word. And that's not going to work in today's age. When you think of today's age and where we are as a society, we're in the age of Aquarius. So whether you like it or not, this is the feminine age. If you know anything about, age of Aquarius, is a feminine age, feminine energy. This is why you're seeing a lot of, credence given to women. You see a lot of promotion of women in society because we've moved away from the masculine era. So we're moving into an age of the feminine attributes. And so it's not gonna work if you're putting down women in today's society. It's not going to work. Now, women perfect? No, they're not. But if your whole purpose of your product or whatever it is you're selling is to put down women, you're going to get a lot of backlash, and you're going to be unpopular out on the streets. Then you are going to be celebrated. So that's one of the reasons why I think hip hop really kind of fell off, is that most cultures wouldn't buy into it because of the fact that it really kind of puts women down. That also being said, hip hop also puts men down, and Afrobeat doesn't. So their men are represented in a very, very negative light. See, the African American man, when you see a video, the portrayal of African American men is really in a negative light. So it's mostly African American men in hip hop are represented as gangsters, are represented aggressive, are represented as thugs, are represented as people that, you know, seem to enjoy criminality, right? That is, I'll tell you now that is most African American men. That is not their belief system, right? They don't believe in that. They don't do that. That is not their lifestyle. That doesn't represent who they are. But what is put out there, was promoted, what is often perpetuated out in the media is a misrepresentation or a negative representation of their man. And so many people, when they come in contact with a black man or African American man, the perceived value they have are these things that they see. And so that is something that has really helped to kill the culture based on that. Again, did hip hop do that, or was this something that was in the culture and that's built into the music genre? I mentioned early on that music is a representation of what the culture is. And so if something is in a culture, it's only a matter of time that you see it really kind of reflect in its music. Afrobeat unites people in culture. Hip hop today isn't. At one point, hip hop did. Back when it first started in 1973, all the way to the mid 80s, hip hop was a unifier. That period in time is what I call the golden years of hip hop, because hip hop really tend to really kind of speak and bring its people along and really kind of help to promote the lifestyle of its people in a positive light. It was more used as a political tool to really kind of express it was the heartbeat of the people at the time, and it stood as a voice of activism for the African American community, and it really united the African American community during that period in time. We've seen that obviously over the years really lost that. So it became more of a pursuit of material thing than the elevation of its communities. So Afrobeat isn't that. Afrobeat isn't, Afrobeat unites the people. So you find that even the Nigerian artists working with African artists, you find Nigerian artists work with Ghanaians, Cameroonians, Kenyans, work with people within the African continent and also outside. And why that is important is because when you think of Ghana, Cameroon, these two countries really were outspoken in terms of their displeasure of the success of Nigerian artists. But that didn't stop Nigerian artists from working with them. They even went as far as really calling for a ban of Nigerian music. But that didn't stop Nigerian artists from really kind of trying to work with them and you try to unify Africa. So Afrobeat has really primarily stood for unity, one Africa, one voice. And that's what the world has seen with Afrobeat, which is why it is many people are buying into that. So that's a huge aspect in terms of when you think of longevity, global dominance. That's one thing you need to really kind of pay attention to. So now let's talk about last one of it. In terms of hip hop, the last point I want to make is that hip hop really kind of shamed their lineage and ancestors by using the N-word in their music. I've talked about this in past. I think that this is the biggest shame and disgrace, if you ask me, with the music genre is the glamorization or the promotion of the N-word. Something that our ancestors, who were Africans that were sold into this country, were killed, dehumanized, with by the oppressors. Now, to have years and generations later, have their descendants use that and glamorize it, and more shamefully, have other cultures permit other cultures to really use that. It's a disgrace to the music genre. And so I think that that's one thing that most people, when they hear of hip hop or when you think of rap songs, they're not going to want to associate themselves. People are moving away from that because it's become something very toxic. And so it's something that most cultures and most people outside of the hip hop culture, outside of the black culture, aren't going to buy into because they don't want their kids talking like that. They don't want their families associated with that. Nonetheless, in the past, you've seen cultures buy into it, but now you're seeing people really kind of move off from that because it's become a negative thing. Now that being said, I have seen a few artists, Afrobeat artists, use this N-word in their music, and that is also a shame. And like I've said in my other past videos, they will need to stop doing that because that is a shame and that is a disgrace, and you're not going to dishonor the legacy of our ancestors that were brought into this country, as well as the ancestors of these African Americans that we have today. So that's a huge aspect of why I think it lost its dominance, and why I think Afrobeats, will maintain dominance as long as that is not put in its music. Let's talk about Highlife. So Highlife, again, I'm going to focus on the people, just like I focused on the Nigerian people as well as the African American people in terms of what we're seeing. So the key points I want to talk about with Highlife is that Highlife started back in 1920s. Is where we saw Highlife. It really kind of ran from 1920s to 1950s. So Highlife had a 30-year good run. Hip hop had like a 35, 36-year good run. Hip hop really started fizzling out, in 2007, 2008 was where we really kind of saw hip hop really die off. So about 35, 37 years run in terms of hip hop. Highlife had right about the same. And Highlife back then in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s was primarily known in two African countries, Nigeria and Ghana, right? That it really had a huge, it really played a huge role. But in terms of today, Highlife is almost non-existent in where we are today. And I'll go over the reasons why that is and why Highlife almost isn't recognizable today compared to what people see with Afrobeats. So, point number one, Highlife isn't original, okay? And it tends to promote other culture rather than promote Ghana and Ghanaian culture. Here's what I mean by that. So when you think of the biggest artists today in Highlife and how the artists that we know today, this Shatta Wales, the Sarkodis, the Stonebwoy, the Kiddies of the world, these artists mostly adopt other cultures. So there's a lot of dance hall. You have dance hall with Stonebwoy. You with Shatta Wale. This dance hall is Jamaican. It's a Jamaican culture in reggae. And then you have the rap, the Sarkodis of the world that tend to rap. So that again is an African American culture. Okay, and then you have some of the artists with, Ghanaian artists like Jackie, who adopts a lot of the Afrobeat artists. That's Afrobeat style is Nigeria. So you find that a lot of these artists aren't promoting their culture. They're mostly adopting and promoting other culture, which is not original and it isn't authentic. Highlife chases trends, and again goes back and into what I just said. They tend to chase trend and not set their own trend, which is a huge difference with Afrobeats. So Afrobeats, the reason why Afrobeat is attractive is that it promotes Nigerian culture. Okay, so even people in the West are buying into Nigerians, right? So when you think of products, most people buy a product not because of the product. They buy it because of who is selling the product. You tend to find this with sales reps. They'll tell you, if you have ever sold anything, if you've ever been trained as a sales rep, people buy from people they like, right? And I think you would, even though if you yourself can attest to this, if you've gone to a store and you had a shitty customer service and you wanted a particular product, you go to a different store to buy that same product, but from someone else that gives you a better experience. The same way with Afrobeat. Afrobeat, people buy into Afrobeat based on their perception of Nigerians and the way they've engaged with Nigerians. And most people will find Nigerians to be favorable, right? When you think of Highlife, that's why I love the trends that Nigerians are selling when they're selling Nigerian culture to the world. Most people buy into that because it's original. It's a buying into the Nigerian people. So the dance, the choreograph moves in the music, mostly African, Nigerian style music, Nigerian style dance steps that you find people on TikTok and social media really emulate when they are buying into these songs. So Nigerians are setting trends with Afrobeats. They're not chasing trends. There's a little bit of borrowing of other culture, which is fine to do, but for most part, they're setting their own tone as well as their own trend. You're not finding that with Ghana or with Highlife. It's more of like really chasing what's popular, chasing what's in season, and that's usually people recognize that quickly, that you're not original, and they recognize that you don't have your own voice. So that's a huge part. The third part on this is Ghanaians don't support their own. You're not seeing a lot of support for Highlife as you're seeing with Nigerians supporting Afrobeats. So Afrobeats became successful and is gaining global recognition primarily because Nigerians pushed it. Okay, Nigerians pushed it. Nigerians on the continent, Nigerians in the diaspora pushed this. I mentioned earlier on how the video, artists, even said it in the interview when they were coming up. Wizkid, the video, have made points on this, that they became successful because Nigerians went to clubs and demanded that their artist songs be played. Otherwise, they weren't going to eat at that club. Otherwise, they weren't going to buy drinks at the club, or at least, engage that club. So that is a huge support. I also mentioned earlier on how Nigerians support their own, Nigerians promote their own. So that is a behavior you tend to find with many Nigerians, is that when they have their own in any industry, they tend to fall behind and push it. You don't see that with Ghanaians. Ghanaians ain't pushing Highlife as you're seeing with Afrobeat. And that's a huge factor that's causing the demise of Highlife. The fourth part on this is that, and I mentioned this in a different video, Ghanaians don't understand the business of music, right? With anything, whether it's skills, whether it's art, whatever your craft is, there's a business aspect of everything. Okay, otherwise you're not going to eat out here. Okay, if you're looking to earn from your skills, if you're looking to have a living or make a living from your craft, you're going to learn the business aspect of it. There is a business side to everything. And so that's something that we haven't seen with Ghanaians. And more importantly, we're not seeing Ghanaians really learn or try to learn or humble themselves to learn the business of music from Nigerians who have mastered the business of music. And so Ghanaians aren't humbling themselves to do this. What we're seeing, unfortunately, is the butting of heads, right? We're seeing the jealousy. We're seeing the attempt to claim Afrobeat as their own rather than really develop their own music, right? So that's what you're seeing. So you're not seeing them really try to learn, what Nigerians are doing and how they're doing it, and take the time to learn it so they can really improve their own music. You'll find with many successful people, even here in the West, the formula for success is you find someone that's successful and you try to emulate that. You try to have them mentor you. It's a formula that's worked and continue to work with many successful people. And you'll find that that's not what you're seeing with Ghanaians. So that's a huge reason why I think that high life today is, as I mentioned earlier on, is non-existent because of the inability for Ghanaians to not support each other and not understand the business aspect of this music industry. And last but not the least, the Ghanaian high life has a small market share for the simple reason that it is not relatable. Okay, most people can't relate to the few artists that really kind of sing high life music. Most of their song is in their language, in their local language, and so it's hard for anyone outside of Ghana to really relate to that. So Kitty, with his most popular song, which is a Ghanaian artist, Odo, that particular song, I would imagine is about a love. It's a love song, but it's not in English. Now, the only reason why I think it's a love song is because of the video, and it's a beautiful song. The melody and the beats, it's a really great song. And but I don't understand what's being said. I don't know what's going on. Because the entire song is not in English. It's in his local language. So it's hard for anyone. And that's just an example. And so many times when you hear Ghanaians sing, in their high life music, in their high life type of flavor and style, it's not something that anyone in Africa, from Africa, can relate to it, let alone someone in the West relate to that. So that would really limit your market share in terms of people, global expansion. And that's something I've talked about. So it's a huge, huge problem for Ghanaians. And I think that they can fix this. However, they would have to fix a lot of the stuff that I talked about, all the points that I made in this video. So anyway, these are the reasons why I believe, based on these points that I've mentioned and the points that I've drawn, comparing afrobeats against hip-hop as well as high life. That's why I think afrobeat is going to have a longer dominance. I predict 50-year dominance in terms of global dominance, that we're going to see this music genre really kind of outlast for 50 years. It's going to outperform hip-hop, who I said really, hip-hop had like a 35, 37-year dominance before it really lost its place. It's going to outperform that for the reasons I've mentioned. It's going to obviously outperform high life, and it's already outperforming all these music genres for the reasons that I've mentioned. So we're very, very excited about this. We're very happy to see that Nigerians really have found their voice, found their music with afrobeats, and I do mean Nigeria, because afrobeats is Nigerian own music genre. It's Nigeria's creation. So we're very excited that Nigerians have really found their music and found their voice and are representing the country as well as the continent with this. So I look forward to really kind of bringing you guys much more of this type of video to really promote Afrobeat and promote Nigerians, because I think that with all of the negative things that people have said about Nigeria in the past, it's worthwhile, and it's very important that we also really kind of promote and shine a light to Nigeria when they're producing really positive outcome and touching the world positively. All right, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you liked it. Please give it a thumbs up, as well as share this video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all next time.
För de här yardis, de vill ju bara dra ner oss. Men du är fett och vanlig, och det jag lägger av min tid. Jag vill ha dig, nu får mig känna safety.